next speaker, who's going to talk about NFT and blockchain vision. Please welcome on stage Gaby Goldberg. Come on, big round of applause, guys, please. Hi, Gaby. I think you have slides, so here's the clicker for you, and have a lot of fun. Oops. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? My name is Gaby Goldberg. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm an investor at TCG, the Churn Group, where I invest at the early stages at the intersection of consumer and crypto. I'll be talking today about Web3, what it means to me, and why I've decided to dedicate my career to the space. I think perhaps before we get started, it's probably best to kind of get a pulse on the audience and see where everyone stands in terms of the content. So maybe give me a show of hands. Raise your hand if you own an NFT. Okay? Keep your hand up or raise your hand if you own or if you have a crypto wallet that's not on Coinbase. So MetaMask, Rainbow, something like that. Okay, raise your hand if you work in the space, adjacent to blockchain or Web3. Awesome, fewer. Lastly, raise your hand if you have no idea what I just said and you have no idea what this is going to be about. Okay, that's okay too. The main thing that I want to hit home during my time on stage is the best thing about this space is the people and all of the different backgrounds and perspectives that come together to make the space what it is. And so regardless of where you're coming from or what you know, this is an ecosystem that could be for you. So I'll tell my story, but it'll be exciting no matter what background you come from. Perhaps the best place to start is with my story. So I just moved to New York a couple months ago. I'm really happy to be here. I grew up in Santa Barbara in Southern California, but really the way I tell this story is I grew up online. And that's for two reasons. One is because of my age. I grew up with the internet. I'm 22 years old. But also because I grew up selectively mute. And so for most of my young life, I didn't talk to anyone besides my parents and my two brothers. The side effect of that is I spent a lot of time online and on the internet. I spent countless hours playing games like Minecraft and RuneScape. I learned how to code on the blogging platform Tumblr, if anyone remembers, and generally always grew up with this notion of understanding online communities and online friends. When I got to Stanford, I studied philosophy and computer science to better understand how people interact with technology. I worked in the virtual reality lab for a number of years to research how we make decisions in VR and how we bring our friends into virtual space. And straight out of school, I went into early stage consumer investing, first at Chapter One, which is a seed stage fund in Los Angeles, and then at Bessemer Venture Partners, which is multi-stage and multi-sector, but I was on the early stage consumer team. I recently moved to join the team at TCG, or the Churn Group, to focus on the firm's investments at the earliest stages, at the intersection of consumer and crypto. I believe Web3 is the future of the internet, so I'm here today to tell you why. Now, I can't really say Web3 without first explaining Web 2 and Web 1, and so I will try and make it quick and painless, but I think we should start with some homework with a very brief history of the internet. So the web was started in 1989 with this vision of an open and decentralized network of information where people were in control, not platforms. So if anyone recognizes the words HTTP, SMTP, these are the open and decentralized protocols that the internet was built on. This is Web 1 on the left. During this first era of the internet, we saw the emergence of companies like Google, Yahoo, and Amazon, but quite frankly, the consumer experience was not great. The internet back then is not anything like what it is today, and it wasn't designed to be that way. So over the next couple decades, essentially until the present, consumers ended up migrating from these open services to more centralized ones where the consumer experience was just a lot better. So now we're in Web 2, the platform economy. And here is where we kind of have to pause. I think the internet is the best invention of our century, and so the movement from Web 1 to Web 2 was really good because it gave billions of people across the world access to the internet and all of its technologies. But it was also hard because when you have platforms like these ones in control, it makes it harder for individuals and groups and businesses to create things online without fear of centralized platforms taking control of them. And this is still a problem that we see today. A big example that we all know is Apple. Apple taking a 30% cut of all revenues that come through apps on its app store. Over the last decade, we've all seen how the role of the individual in value creation has grown and grown in importance. Companies like Patreon, Kickstarter, Cameo, Substack, they all emerged to allow us to directly fund the products and information that we care about. So now today, we build, we operate, and we fund the networks we use every day as individual users. We should be able to collectively own them too. So this brings us to Web3. I think Web3 is the next era of the internet, and it's going to fundamentally change the way we interact, transact, and engage online. Web3 will provide a level playing field. It'll combine the decentralization of Web 1 with the powerful consumer experience of Web 2. And perhaps most importantly, Web 3 will bring us back to the original values of what the internet was supposed to be all along. Decentralized, community governed, efficient, innovative, accessible, and wildly dynamic. All right, now that we've done our homework, I only have 15 minutes on stage, and so I want to cut right to the chase with one of the most powerful consumer elements of NFTs, and that is non-fungible tokens. So a lot of people throw around the term NFT without knowing what it actually means, and so this is my favorite analogy. What you see on the left is a fungible token, a dollar bill. Let's say I have $1 and you have $1, and we exchange them or we use them as currency. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which dollar you have. They're all the same. So you can replace $1 in this example with Ethereum or Bitcoin. It's a currency, they're all fungible. Now, let's say I have a dollar bill like the one on the right, signed by Andy Warhol. If you guys all have your normal dollars, I'm definitely not trading this one. It's unique, and it can't be replaced by something else. It's non-fungible. In the case of Web3, an NFT is a cryptographically unique token. It's encoded on the blockchain, and it's linked to digital or physical content, providing proof of ownership. Today, NFTs can range from anything to art, music, video game assets, and a lot more than I can talk about just today, but we'll talk about some of the big ones. NFTs arguably brought crypto to the masses. This past summer is what a lot of people in this space called NFT summer due to the explosive growth of the ecosystem. Here's one example. OpenSea, the leading and largest NFT marketplace, exploded in volume. In June, it was at $125 million in volume. In July, that number doubled. And in August, it hit $3 billion in volume. So what are some of the use cases? Here's the first one. Raise your hand if you've seen any of these kinds of profile pictures around. If you're at all on Twitter, you've probably seen them. I have one. I know some people in the audience have them. Avatars and PFP projects are a great way to show your identity online. And the way I think about it is, as we spend more and more of our time online, we talked about this earlier today, our online identity is just as important as our identity in the real world. Avatars and PFPs signal social capital. They show which communities you're aligned with and where you like to hang out online. The interesting thing is because these aren't just pictures, they're based on NFT assets. They allow for not just social groups to form, but also microeconomies in a sense. Because if you buy an NFT in a group of larger ones, you've now invested into that community, and you have real upside into its growth. So I encourage you to go online and try and check out all of the different collections that are out there, but I've listed some of the big ones up here. On the left, we have CryptoPunks. This is one of the most famous and one of the oldest NFT collections, launched in 2017. In the middle, we have Bored Ape Yacht Club, launched in April of this year, so much newer but still quite popular. This one is actually owned by Jimmy Fallon. And lastly, this is just a personal favorite with a really strong community called Cool Cats. Up next, we have generative fine art. NFTs have fundamentally expanded what it means to collect art, but also to create it. Generative fine art is a subset of digital art where artists use algorithms to generate randomness in the work that they output. The largest NFT art marketplace is called Art Blocks for generative art, and the founder, who goes by Snowfro, created Chromie Squiggles, which you see here in the middle. But it also hosts a whole suite of other projects, like Fidenzas on the left by Tyler Hobbs. This is my favorite project, and I dream of owning one day. and Ringers by Dmitry Cherniak on the right. A really crazy fun fact is the first 3 curated sets from Art Blocks were actually listed in Christie's October 1st auction of this year, with live bidding for the auction in Ethereum. This is a first for any leading auction house. Next up, we have gaming assets. This is a fun one because I know we have some folks from SoRare in the audience. Here's how I think about crypto gaming. Today, the amount of active users in DeFi, or decentralized finance, hovers around 4 million. And it's great, and it's growing for crypto, but it's absolutely nothing when you think about the number of active gamers there are, which is around 2.5 billion. There's a massive, massive opportunity for active gamers to move into blockchain-based games. And for good reason. If you actually own the assets that you use in-game, you're no longer just a player, but you're an investor. There are a bunch of games. Again, I encourage you to check these out, but I've listed some of the big ones on screen here. Axie Infinity on the left is a play-to-earn game valued at $3 billion this year. SoRare is a global fantasy football game where the player cards are bought and sold as NFTs, so you can buy, sell, and manage your team. And on the right, we have Sandbox, which is one of the many metaverses or virtual worlds out there where you can buy digital real estate or virtual land. The last space I'll talk about today is community access. And like I said at the beginning, to me, the most important thing in this space is the people. So this is really important. There are a lot of communities online that are gated to the public, but if you buy an NFT, it acts as your key or your access point to join the community. What's interesting is over the last year, we've seen a lot of these communities move from just fully digital to a hybrid of digital and physical, or IRL and URL, and I expect we'll see a lot more of that in the future. I'm biased, but on the left is my absolute favorite community. It's actually what got me to jump into this space full-time this past year. It's called Bright Moments. It's a physical NFT art gallery. So imagine walking into a gallery and there's real NFT art on the walls, and you can mint your own NFTs, but only if you're there in person. They first started in Los Angeles, where I was there for the first time. Now they're in New York on 150 Worcester Street, so definitely check it out while they're still here. And in a couple months, they're moving to their next location in Berlin. In the middle, we have Friends with Benefits. It is not the movie, but it's a crypto social club. So you can buy access to this community, and it's people all across the world who are interested in bringing culture into the space, and they host events all around the world. The last one is just an example of the many builder and hacking communities that exist online. This one's called Developer DAO, where members of the community all share upside in the community's growth, and they build different projects together. In my opinion, some of the coolest and best work that happens in the space gets done in these small token-gated groups. So I'm coming up on time. So the last thing I want to say is, as we enter this next era of the internet, decentralized networks are not by any means a silver bullet that will solve all of the internet's problems. They're not, and we shouldn't act like they are. But they do offer a much better approach than centralized systems, and we're off to a really, really good start. Crypto networks bring us one step closer to true community-owned networks with real incentive alignment and upside for contributors. There's a long way to go, but I'm so excited about what the next few years have to bring to this ecosystem, and I'm honestly just so honored to be a part of this space with all of the builders, investors, and thinkers working to push forward this next frontier of consumer software. I might have a couple minutes for questions, but I wanted to throw my links up here in case you wanted to follow along or reach out with any questions afterwards. Thank you again so much.